Well, all right. Um, I did not feel good this morning. I was a little, I don't know why, but I wake up, my bones ache and I get a little depressed in the morning. It's rather discerning, but I am fasting as of now. I don't know if I'm going to continue my daily fast, but I might just do that. I might just fast for the whole day. Um, we do have Joe here as well, and
I'm totally here.
he is totally here. And we did a show on Rumble because
Yeah.
we got a community guideline strike, uh, and we won't go into what we talked about. But again, I'm trying to, keep within the community thing and not post misinformation. I want to talk about anger. And right now, in this time, a lot of people are really angry, and they feel anger. I think I could be wrong on this on my analogy, but anger primarily stems from I think the thought is they're being unfair to me. And when a person's unfair to you, or even an institution is unfair to you, you want to lash out at the people that are uh, protecting that institution or defending an institution that you believe is unfair and unjust. And sometimes there is nothing you can do. Sometimes uh, the person or our thing is just too big. I want to mention two people in our chat room, both Mandy and Darren,
Welcome to the show.
and
Get ready to have so much fun today.
hopefully. But now you've spoken that this is a biological thing, and how do you, Joey? How does a person control their anger when they feel so wronged and they want what they consider to be justice or revenge? How does somebody like handle that position where it doesn't go south? Because a lot of times they want to say to yourself, when you're arguing with somebody, know where this is going, and it's not going anywhere productive or good. But the juices are flowing. You feel very justified. How does a person stop themselves from continuing an engagement with a person that
Okay, so yeah, it's not always about being the better person. It's really about understanding the physiology of what's going on. So if you can recognize all those basic functions, if you can recognize that there's kind of a spectrum, and if you can look at the spectrum and identify where you're at on that spectrum, usually that is the first line of defense, because if you know what's happening to your body, you're going to understand how to cope with that. And I would put that above and beyond how you deal with something you disagree with, or you're fighting mad about. So I would always start with that, and I would always work with also what's happening in the brain, and usually anger puts people right into that fight or flight mode. So, I mean, these are all like the basics of physiology, right? Red is heat, anger, like your shirt. Not shocked there. And blue would be on the opposite end of that spectrum, and usually people are going to fall right somewhere in that spectrum. So I'd always say to identify what's happening. Are you having trouble breathing? Is your heart beating fast? Are you sweating? So you want to identify all these little things, because what somebody says or does, you should always be in control. You can control those to a point, all those physiological changes that are happening. So, when somebody gets super angry and they act on it and they end up doing something really stupid or damaging or harmful to another person, a judge will always take into consideration how the anger was dealt with if it gets to that point. So I I worked with a professional hockey player once. Not once, but for 50 consecutive weeks. He was court mandated to come and see me. And he got angry because a woman cut him off while they were driving. He followed her, I think it was about 10 miles to her work, got out of the car and threw coffee on her car and on her. And so she pressed charges, of course. And he had, no matter what she had done prior to that, he had the plenty of time to identify all of these things. And by the time we were done with 50 consecutive weeks of going over the physiology and what's going on in the brain and where anger stems from, he was a changed guy. He said he used it, in practices, and he was starting to use it, when it's in games. So I kind of took that as a feather in my cap. Take it for what you will, but he said it helped. It's the little things in life.
I'll tell you, Joe, as a grown man, not as a child or even as an adolescent, or maybe starting with my adolescence, just about every angry confrontation that I ever really got into that came close to physical blows or went to physical blows, I regret. And I know that there could have been another way, but my ego and my pride and what I felt was right, and this person did me wrong, so I wanted to hurt me. And some of them, by the way, like when I look back on it, some of them meant no malice. I mean, they had no malice in their heart. And if someone has malice in their heart, you should probably just stay away from them. And there are people out there with like if you disagree with them, they have a lot of malice. And there is a little bit of a debate between Mandy and Darren going on. You don't have to love, you just don't have to care. And I think, I have to agree to a degree with Mandy. You don't have to love, Darren comes from a Christ-centered point of view, and I'm not one that believes in that. I believe that you don't have to care about, the other person. There are times when, unfair things are going to happen, and they've happened throughout history, and they're happening today.
There's a lot of unfair practices going on right now. Our last show before we got our temporary boot from YouTube was an opinion, and I was just reading over what I did know about the situation, and sure enough, we got flagged. So it wasn't worth getting angry over. I didn't really didn't care. Pudding pops are great. Darren's on a love crusade, by the way. He's going to be sharing love with the entire world.
And to a point, love can be a motivating factor for a lot of people. Even because one of the reasons you may want to love an enemy is they're, like when they expose themselves to you, they're showing you who they really are. And you should love that. You should love that and know, like, hey, they're giving me clarity. They're a moody person. They're not a person you want to hang out with. So when they show themselves to you and they reveal themselves to you, they're giving off the signs, and you know them. You're not going, and then you realize that you're probably not going to change this person. The best thing you can do is probably keep away from that person. But they're showing you who they are when they're hostile and when they're cruel. So I guess to a point, but I think you should just be aware and not really like.
But are they showing themselves? I mean, is that are you saying that their primal urge to destroy at that point? Are you saying that that is the real them? Because I would claim that it's really just a physiological function and not being able to cope with what's happening to their body to be able to react in a non-emotional state. So they've been elevated, and I would say that they're not themselves. They're just unable to control an aspect of themselves. I don't know. Are you disagreeing on that? Are you saying that?
Well,
unclear what you're saying.
they're showing themselves that they can't control themselves, and they're very intolerant. And sometimes
Can't's a strong word. Maybe they don't have the tools. They're but to say they can't, I think they can, but they're making that either they're ignorant to certain things, or they may be they may have an affinity towards violence, and but to say they can't is strong. So are you saying that some of these people have no chance to work on this skill and hone that and control it?
if they're interested in seeking help for that, but I mean, unless you're a therapist, it's best to strive to avoid people that cannot control their anger. And it's best to sometimes you can sometimes you work with a person who has limited to no control of their feelings and anger, and they will they will affect you. I mean, I don't think being a practicing Stoic means that you're made of stone. And some people will be completely unreasonable and irrational, and you cannot avoid. And there are times when you cannot avoid them because
let's see what Darren says here. Darren says, "Oh, we flipped away." I love. Wait, why are you flipping around?
Okay, go ahead.
I love everyone, but prefer hanging out with either people that think like me or diametrically opposing. For some reason, I haven't figured out. I'm not sure what the hell he's saying there.
Well, I mean,
lay off the booze, Darren. I'm kidding. In the end, the love we take is equal to the love we make.
And Mandy says, I love not being anything like that.
I love being diametrically opposed to Darren on all levels.
I don't believe the Beatles. I just believe in me.
Know thyself.
I love discord and peace. That's also what Darren said. And I also look. I mean, I like peace as well, and I think you can find it. It is becoming harder nowadays. We are under a pandemic, and we have to follow certain guidelines or not be accepted. And it's a difficult time for those who, for them, want to live free and feel their freedoms are being their freedoms are being restricted and violated. And for me, I just go along to a degree to get along. And there are things that I will absolutely fight about, and there are things that I will go along to get along.
Mm-hmm.
But it's unfortunate. Our freedoms of speech are being curtailed. And you can see this all over social media. And
Well, I'll just say that I've taken an assertive approach, and I think there's really four ways that people tend to deal with anger, frustration, and a lot of things. But it could be passive, passive aggressive, assertive, or aggressive. And so an aggressive person is going to try. The problem with an aggressive kind of attitude, like I hear a lot of people, like our buddy Kings likes to say that he's an alpha, which I find pretty funny and great because he can act alpha. But I was talking to him last night about this, and that an alpha will enter into a disagreement in an aggressive way, and it always leaves a conflict with one end gaining power over another one. Now, in passive aggressive attitude, you see that a lot in offices or kind of in close confines when you're around certain people too much, and frustrations get taken out on the down low, and then of course there's passive people who kind of try to please everyone and stuff it all in and blow up. But an assertive type is, for me, it's my stoicism. I try to, if I'm in a disagreement or a conflict with somebody, my goal is to leave that interaction where both parties leave on equal footing with a better understanding of what happened. Even if somebody gets slighted, they can agree with somebody who's taken an assertive role. So that's just kind of my take on dealing with anger and frustration, and that sort of thing. It seems more diplomatic.
I think it's sometimes important to be assertive, firm, but not really angry. And even if you're going to have to defend yourself, be firm and not angry. Sometimes you have to do drastic things, but that's a very rare case. And I mean, I can speak for myself. I don't think of any time where I've ever had where I've gone to blows with someone where I couldn't have de-escalated the situation. It wasn't a kill or be killed situation, or even a fight situation. I could have avoided it, and I could have been a peacemaker. But I didn't know the skills. I was ignorant to that. I was just, if somebody does me wrong, there's still that in me. Like, if you do me wrong and do me harm, I want to return the favor. I want to give you a taste of your own medicine. And oh, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. That's an aggressive approach right there, because you're vying for power. That's what that is. If you're not leaving a situation where both parties are in a better place, then you've fallen to one of these other elements of coping with the anger.
And that's one of my struggles, though. I mean, maybe it is a power dynamic. I just don't want to be. I don't want to be hurt and have someone mess with my head, And I'm like, there are times when people act in ways where the situation is such where I feel that they are vying for power over me and they're not being reasonable. So I want to take it up a notch and give to them. Like I said, I have the urge at times to give people a dose of their own medicine. It's particularly true with my father. You're going to do to me, I'm going to do to you. Because you wouldn't like it done. My goal was I want people to treat me as I want to be treated. Now, the best thing to do if people don't understand that is to walk away and strive not to be around them. if you work in a position like that, you go to your supervisor and higher up, say, look, this person that I'm working with, or even if it's a supervisor, if you can go to your higher ups and say, yeah, this person doesn't treat people the way she wants to be treated. On average, that's the best deal. And in this country, we have that. It seems to be less, though, in this day and age, under certain topics. And that's why I think we're going to start the walk against woke, because there are people that feel so self-righteous that things like due process and talking to one another is not viable. They want to talk at us and not to us, and that really gains nothing except anger on both sides. And one of the things I hope to do is diffuse situations where there is not anger. And I see two approaches that I see from some of these, how they deal with woke is, number one, they get angry back at them, or they submit. And there is, I think, a happy medium in between the two. Like, you can be firm, but you don't have to be angry. You don't have to exert your anger, but you can be firm and say, wait a minute. And there are films, for me, the film that does this the best, and I guess it's kind of a liberal film, but is In the Heat of the Night. The manner in which the Sidney Poitier character, Virgil Tibbs, deals with people that are disagreeable. He does defend himself, by the way, but he never explodes into raging anger, even though he's mistreated. And that's kind of the way you have to deal with it. Joe, you're on mute, so.
They called me Mr. Tibbs. So, yeah, that's. Let's get back to this march against the woke. What do we have a strategy for this? Because we're going to need some people to come out with us and participate. So I think we're going to start marketing this pretty soon. You're going to want to join us. You're going to want to join us for a march against the woke.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think we're going to try and do.
Don't stop us, Darren.
Yeah, don't, no. But you know what? I mean, and here's the deal. Perfection is the enemy of progress. And this may not go very well, but I think, again, my goal from Transparency and Merit is to have people talk to each other, not at one another. And social media has kind of made that happen. There seems to be an unfairness there. But when you can't really examine facts and see for yourself, we're going through a pandemic right now, lockdowns, riots have happened on both ends. They say January 6th, and they had the BLM George Floyd riots. All these things have happened, and again, some of this is about ego. Other things are about the belief that these, people are really wrong or whatever. But again, we need to talk to each other, not at one another. And I'll end on that. Joe, do you have anything to add before we end this show?
No, there's a lot of good comments in here. Communication's key. Trying to promote and maybe if you don't know it, learn it. Try to be as truthful as you can. That also is a very effective diffuser in a conflict of two sides. The truth is somewhere in between both sides usually, and so if they can land on it, that usually is super effective.
Yeah, and that's the main thing right now is that we are talking at one another, and I think there are polar opposites on both sides, and we're not coming together, speaking to each other. And again, debate is important, discussion is important, and hopefully that can happen. We can have an open and honest discussion. We're going through a pandemic right now, we're going through kinds of tension and policing, and we're ending up with policies that don't make us safer and don't make things better. We're ending with. By the way, I want to mention that Clint Eastwood has been trending on Twitter. I'll go into that offline. I wanted to just maybe do a later on show.
Is he going to be canceled?
They tried to, wasn't successful. And again, human beings are not angels. They're human beings, and a lot of times you try to put people on the level of angels and not human beings. So we're living in difficult times. Hopefully, you know what, we can get people having a dialogue that might not be possible in this day and age, just because we're so polarized, and the powers that be don't want debate. They seem to want to stifle it. Anyway, Joe, do you have anything to add before I end the show?
Brian, will you be dressing like Dennis for Halloween this year?
If I can find the right beard, I will. I will definitely dress like Dennis, and maybe Mandy can fly out from Texas and get some good
Tex-Mex,
Texas rum or something like that, because that will really, and then maybe a few like fake gold nuggets going there, gold and then their hills. Anyway, or maybe some good Canadian wine.
how about some cheap beer?
Slug around and say, I was the champ once, by golly.
We'll need some Indian reservation cigarettes to go along with it. Okay.
All right. And nobody Dennis is, by the way, only Mandy and the few know. I think that's probably who listened to us, or the people on Discord. Anyway, hey, like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Leave a comment. Please leave a comment, because I think the comments help us. And also share this video if you gain anything from it. Anyway, and then also visit our website at transparencyandmerit.com. The few people who listened out there, Mandy and Darren, thank you very much for listening, and enjoy the rest of your day.